My presentation is about harp development over the ages through the end of the Baroque era. I want to start by showing where we are now, which is the modern concert harp that you see if you go to the symphony or modern performances. I also want to comment that many of the harps I'm going to show you from history are still actually in widespread use in various parts of the world, and are played by accomplished musicians in their own right. The modern concert harp is evolved, so to speak. It's a very heavy instrument. It's quite resonant. There's all these pedals to show sharps and flats. It's an expensive instrument. It's hard to move and maintain, but it's a beautiful instrument. Just briefly, the evolution of techniques to play this instrument has followed the structure of the instrument. So this is the modern concert harp, which takes a lot of strength to pull the strings, shown in the left picture, and then the right hand position to get a tone out of this instrument. How we got here, though. Invention of the harp, like so many things in history, didn't follow a linear path, so there's a lot of evidence that were simultaneous inventions of different types of harps and instruments all over the world, with different materials, ways of playing it, and positioning the person. And materials, of course, were whatever the society had at the time. The basic structure of the harp started way back as kind of a bow-like instrument. Some were thought to be used by warriors or hunters, and then, they noticed that you could make a sort of music by plucking that string. There's no column. It's not a very strong instrument, and not many strings. It might have been strummed. We don't know how much if it was plucked or percussed by hitting the instrument, which is possible. Then more early harps became arched. There was the addition of more strings over time, and there's a famous Irish warrior, Brian Boru, who was the High King of Ireland at one point, united Ireland for a period of time, and he was said to play the earliest Irish harp. It was probably a rudimentary harp, though, because I'll show you the next one. The early Irish harp that is known today is actually something that was eventually finalized in the 1400s when brass was invented and brass strings were added. So this was a harder harp to play. There were a lot more strings. There's still no way to do sharps and flats, but it now has a pillar that you can see, which makes the instrument stronger, and you can get higher tension. In other words, play faster and play louder. Some other pictures of early harps. This on the left is a Paraguayan harp, and next to it there's a arched harp that's used in Asia and parts of Africa, and then two more Asian harps on the right, all over the world. And then there's a leap to European modern harps beginning at the kind of in the Baroque era, and this is where the portability of the harp goes down. It gets to be a bigger instrument, and it's played more by elites, and the harpists tend to travel to the harps that are owned by rich people rather than toted around the countryside by bards. And this follows the idiomatic composition that we learned about and virtuosity, with the need to play faster, louder, and use chromatic elements. And also playing with other people, chamber music, you needed to be able to play louder and tune your instrument. So we get the modern harp beginning at the end of the Baroque era, but we're still not there yet. We've got invention of the single action pedal harp in the late 1700s, which allowed us to get sharps but not flats, and a triple strung harp, which had 3 different strings for each note, so you could play it, but I have nightmares thinking about trying to play that. So we don't really get the modern concert harp until after this era, but we have a lot of Baroque music that we play currently, but it was composed for other instruments. So next term, I'll talk about how the modern concert harp developed and more about why. Thanks. Bye.